Thank you very much for your graciousness, Principal Bailey, for welcoming everybody that came in. And we know the efforts and the behind-the-scenes work that goes into hosting an event like this. So we thank you. We hope that it hasn't been too much of an introduction to your day serving the students. And as I said to others, I've lived in Newark for 30 years. I've never been in this school, and it's simply beautiful.
Thank
so
you.
Congratulations on the beautiful school.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out to Brookside today. Thank you very much.
Great, you bet. The conversation today, and we're going to move pretty rapidly, but I think to just put a bit of a parameter around what we're talking about today represents an incredible collaboration that's really been years in the making. First of all, people may know that high school wellness centers have been in the state of Delaware since about 1985. And some people in this room were there at the beginning, which is quite remarkable. In the last couple of years, we've been able to add elementary wellness centers in a number of our districts, and even starting to move into the middle school. What is necessary to make this happen is not one individual entity. The school districts can't do it. The healthcare providers can't do it alone. The families can't up and just make it happen. The public-private partnerships we have with, as highlighted today, with Newcastle County Executive's Office, with multiple school districts working across lines on a single RFP. Has anybody even ever heard of that? This is a remarkable achievement, and it's really all for one reason. It's to be able to provide our children, your children, my children, with seamless services so that when they come into school, they're able to get the support they need to be ready to learn. That's why we're here. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, MIDGE BARRETT, Executive Director of
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to see all of you, and thank you for taking your time to be here. As John said, this is a wonderful collaboration, an opportunity that unfortunately rose from the pandemic, but good things sometimes happen from bad things. I have been passionate about children's health for at least 50 years, and so I'm very pleased to see that now we're going to have a wellness center in Brookside. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. It's now my pleasure to introduce our County Executive, Matt Meyer, who was able to bring us all together today for this fantastic partnership. So, County Executive Meyer.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Good to see everyone today. Wow, it's a big crowd here. Really appreciate everyone coming out. It illustrates how important this is to all of us and to our community. Can we give it up for John and Midge? There's two of them. Come on, let's hear it. Maybe a little horse from the Phillies game last night, the Eagles game the night before, but these are two individuals who really have been working tirelessly for our kids. We see it behind the scenes, how hard they work, reaching out to a group like Newcastle County government that doesn't often get asked to participate in things like this. So out of college, I grew up here in Delaware. Once I finished college, I applied to a program called Teach for America. And I applied for the program because it sent recent college grads, now I guess, any college grad, anywhere in the country to be placed in schools where assistance is needed most as teachers. I applied because I was a math computer science guy, and I believe passionately that in high schools across our country, they really needed the highest quality math computer education. And so I applied, and they could place me anywhere in the country. They placed me in the Anacostia section of Washington, D.C., and they placed me in a 4th grade classroom. And so I was fine with Washington, D.C., but a 4th grade classroom gave me fits. In part because I was so distant from that, I couldn't even remember how tall 4th graders were. But also because I really believed the place to make a difference at the time was at the high school level. And I remember thinking that, okay, so I'll teach my 2 years in 4th grade and then I'll go right to high school. And I remember after teaching a week in 4th grade, I said, I think maybe I'll do kindergarten. Because it wasn't quite young enough. And I kept feeling like, you know, the old adage that you can only bend a tree when it's young. That there are tremendous opportunities in elementary school and tremendous needs. A few years later, teaching, just anytime I walk into school, I see the shiny floors. The school I taught in had an amazing maintenance staff, and so anytime I see shiny floors, I think of my elementary school maintenance staff. And I was thinking walking in of a student, Erica, who was a great student. Anytime I closed the door, she went into fits. So I actually taught across the hall from the music room. So you can imagine I needed to teach her math closer to our question. She would go into fits and she'd be totally off the rest of the school day. So I had to find a way to manage my classroom without ever closing the door until she found an adult in the school who could assist her. Assist her with something that I was not. I was trained to teach math and Piaget and Dewey and all sorts of educational tools. But I wasn't trained in sort of those wraparound services. Here in Wilmington, when I came to teach 6th and 7th grade, I had an extraordinary student, Eddie. And Eddie would get top math scores in everything, but had deep-seated emotional issues. He would pick up chairs and throw them at kids in fits, and then suddenly it stopped. It stopped. And Eddie, all the good of Eddie continued, and sort of the bad stuff just kind of stopped. And I didn't know why. And a week or two later, I noticed that there was this woman who'd come and stand in my door. I thought she was like evaluating my teaching. She would just stand right there where Mike Phillips is standing, and she'd look at me, and she'd look at the classroom. I later learned that that was Miss Graves. She was the wellness person in the school. The problem is Miss Graves would come and she'd go, and the contract was there. She was there for a few weeks, and then when it was off, she would disappear. What we're doing today is so important. It's so important. Teachers are taught to go in a classroom and teach. And a lot of these wraparound things, a lot of the mental health things, we can try to teach them to be all things to all people, but it's amazing when we can put specialists in the schools. And doing it in elementary school is so close to my heart and the hearts of so many of you. As was said, putting together a coalition like this, I think I got calls on this multiple times from every superintendent. It's something, Christiana Care, Nemours, who are here, making serious community contributions. This is the kind of thing that is going to have lasting impact for decades. What we're able to do with this federal funding is fund it for a few years, and along the way, what we need to do is figure out how do we do this to be in every elementary school across this state, and every year, just like we have math teachers and English teachers, we need those wellness centers. I want to make sure to thank all the other people on my list here, because I know there are so many here that have made contributions. NAMI Delaware here, thank you so much for your contributions. The Delaware Nurses Association, thank you to the Delaware Nurses Association. The Biden School here, University of Delaware's Public Policy School, thank you so much. Of course, the Department of Education, the Delaware State Education Association, the Rodell Foundation, I'm not taking attendance, I promise. The Delaware School Counselors Association, Delaware Association of School Psychologists, obviously critical to making this a reality, the Delaware PTA, the United Way of Delaware, and the Delaware School Board Association. Again, thank you so much for doing this. Our job is to get the money and get the resources into people's hands, but it's ultimately the adults we put in and the families that are here that are going to make this work. Oh, thank you. Also, there are 2 county council people here who support, and let me be clear, getting anything through county, I can only do, like other than proclamations, I can't do much without the permission of my mother or county council. And getting this through county council was not an easy feat. Trying to do something outside the box like this, impacting kids that the county doesn't normally do, is hard to get the budget for. Our strongest advocate from the outset was Councilwoman Janet Kilpatrick, and thank you for coming here. The wonderful staffer, Vince Loafing. Thank you. And also, I want to mention there's a council member here to be who hasn't been elected yet, but I know is totally very, very passionate about these issues, talked about these issues during his campaign. He won a primary and now has no opponent in the general election, so we're waiting a few weeks. He will be it. County Councilman District 1, Brandon Toole. Thank you for being here. I'm going to close just by saying this. I almost certainly would not be here without a political party official who came to work for me about 2 years ago. And I think it was widely perceived as someone who's really into politics, and it's a suave political move to get somebody in. But it's an individual who started his career in schools as an AmeriCorps member. In this school. You were here? That's Eric Razor Schramm. When we talk about these issues, it's not about politics or even about budget and policy. It's often about specific kids who we had personal experience with. This is a passion project for us. So for us, it's not just a matter of allocating money. It's about making sure that it actually works. So thank you, Eric, and thank you to the team.
Thank you. Thank you, County Executive Meyer. In addition to the other folks, I wanted to recognize our my colleagues from Life Health Center who've joined us as well as another provider of wellness center services in Newcastle County. Welcome. One of the questions that people sometimes have about wellness centers in school, because the primary services are a combination of medical services and behavioral health services, as County Executive Meyer mentioned. People talk about, well, what about the school nurse? And sometimes people say, well, you already have a school nurse, why do you need a wellness center? What we have found is that these services are extremely complementary. Our school nurses, and we have lots of representatives of our school nurses here, many of my colleagues and friends from across the state, have really made this work. It requires a strong collaboration between the school nurse and the medical provider and the families and the school to tie it all together. So I have the honor of introducing my colleague Mandy Pennington from Red Clay, who's here to talk a little bit about the role of the school nurse in this project. Thank you.
No pressure of having to go after Mr. Meyer or having to go second at all. Good morning, everyone. So as Dr. Cooper mentioned, my name is Mandy Pennington. I'm a registered nurse. I am also the supervisor of health services for the Red Clay Consolidated School District, and most importantly, I'm a parent. So I'm going to kind of tell you some stories about both. First and foremost, as a nurse in the school building, we all know that registered nurses work under providers. We really can't do anything without a doctor's order. So our orders in community, in school buildings, are very specific to what we're allowed to do. I was working in a high school and had a student come in that very clearly had an infection in her cuticle, and man, I just want to lance it. You know, I just wanted to lance it and get it out. But I can't do that in that setting. But I did call down to the student-based health center, speak to the nurse practitioner and say, hey, listen, I'm pretty sure this kid has a significant infection. It's green, I can see it. It needs to be lanced, it needs some antibiotics. Sure enough, she took her, lanced it, provided some topical antibiotics, some oral antibiotics she ordered to the pharmacy, and then called the student's parent, and she didn't even miss a half a class period. So that type of collaboration, that ability for us to get kids seen in the school building, not miss a beat, to not have to disrupt parents from their work day, to come pick them up, take them to the doctor, to have such a small procedure, but such an important one, done. As a parent, I have 3 lovely girls, 2 of which attend public school. Well, one actually that just graduated from Red Clay, and the other is a junior at Smyrna. And so one of my favorite pieces of the school-based health center and what they offer is the ability of these students to take charge of their own health. You know, my daughter had the unfortunate circumstances of starting her high school career during the pandemic, so 2021, and is an athlete. So trying to get a well physical was next to a miracle. So I said to her, well, go down to the wellness center, make yourself an appointment, figure out what forms you need, because we have a whole lot of other stuff in schools going on with the pandemic. And so she did so. And this will be her 3rd year of taking charge of her own physical, knowing what forms she needs filled out, really learning those skills, because we talk about health literacy all the time. And what better way, like Dr. Cooper and Mr. Meyer said, about starting at the elementary level, teaching them at the very youngest of age how you can advocate for yourself, what you need, how you're feeling. My middle daughter, the wind blew, and she would have strep. This is not a joke. And so in my past life, I was a neonatal intensive care unit nurse for 22 years. So leaving the bedside for my patients to go pick up my daughter from school was not an option. And fortunately for us, we had family members nearby that could come pick them up and take them to the doctor if we needed, but we know so many of our families do not have those opportunities or those options. So with the student-based health center, or school-based health center, excuse me, I was like, you're gonna sign up. And when your throat starts to hurt, you're gonna go down and see Miss Una. And that's exactly what she would do. And so then if the test came back positive, Una would call me, the nurse practitioner, and say, listen, her rapid strep came back positive. I've already called the pharmacy and sent your prescription in. You just need to pick it up, and we just need somebody to come get her from school. And now I'm in a position where I could, on my lunch break, go grab her, take her home, grab the script, and say, you know what to do, and be back out the door. And I'm happy to say that finally those tonsils are gone. As we started college, thank the Lord, they are gone. But they're just a few examples of ways that, not just as a nurse, but as a parent, we've collaborated with the school-based health centers, and they're just so essential. I've been a huge advocate since being in this position of the school-based health centers and what they can do for our students and our community, quite honestly. Really connecting those parents to services that are well outside our reach in such a complex system to navigate. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Mandy. I'm going to speak a sentence about, since we don't have a representative here per se for behavioral health, I'll speak briefly. One of my roles in Colonial, and again, colleagues in the room did similar things, is to work with kids who are struggling emotionally, or get reports of this kid has made a comment about self-harm, or they're concerned, or they're anxious. And those reports run through my office, and I just make sure that we're all following up the way we're supposed to do. And many, I want to say 50% of the times, for the schools that we have wellness centers, the follow-up is check in with the wellness center. Okay? So in the past, we might say to a parent, and anybody who's worked in public schools, and certainly now post-pandemic, you know how long the wait times are for behavioral health services, to be able to say to a parent, you know, your child's struggling, we know you want help, you might need to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months to get them seen. When we have providers in school, in addition to our school counselors, our school psychologists, our school social workers, which are very hardworking folks, our FCTs or BHCs, having a provider in the school that we can say to the parent, if this is something you're interested in, you can actually receive it here at our school, is quite a boon. With that, I'm going to introduce my colleagues and my boss in time, our superintendents and our representatives from the school district. And first, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Dan Shelton, Superintendent of Christina.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the room that will soon be the Wellness Center here at Brookside. We're very excited and thank all the people that were involved in making this happen. For those of you that aren't familiar with Brookside, we are sitting catty corner to the Hope Dining Room, which is in the church across the street. It's a community where they can get meals, lunches, 4 days a week. Partners with, I think, 26 churches right now that run that across the street. It's a community that believes in partnerships. And I think this is another example of how we can work together in partnership to bring what's best for our kids and our community. And I just can't thank enough the vision of County Executive Myers and County Council in seeing that community needs have to be a partnership of many organizations, and we can't just pigeonhole them into one organization or another to make this work. I'm very excited that this will be the first location, and I'll double down on something that Matt said, which is this is going to help us to see the success and the need and the ability to deal with. It's being funded through some money that comes out of a very traumatic experience for our students and for our families, and we know the need is great in all of our schools. I'm happy that we're able to provide that now at Brookside, and I hope that the successes that happen here and in the other districts will help to elevate and accelerate the work done at the state level to make sure that all schools can have this service. We're blessed that all of our high schools now in the state have it. I don't remember exactly how many years that took, but I do know that the last one wasn't put in until just a few years ago. So it took a long time. And high schools, there's certainly a heck of a lot less high schools than there are elementaries and middle schools, yet we're using the same rate. So if we don't accelerate, it could be 50 years or more before we see them in all schools, and we know it's a tremendous need. So just to double down on that comment, I absolutely positively want to thank the County Council for passing this through and the vision of our executive to make sure that this happened, and our partners at the Delaware School-Based Health Alliance. I knew I wasn't going to get that right. I knew it was written down there. So tremendous partnerships that we have. Many of you might not know Midge wears many hats, and we've worked over the last couple of years with her on so many projects, so thank you, and thank you for all the work that you guys do and your committee. So with that,
I think I'll introduce the next person.
Great, thank you
very much. From Appoquinimink School District, we have Yvonne Carmack, lead nurse, who's here to represent Appoquinimink School District. Thank you.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. So happy to be here today. Really appreciate this opportunity. My name is Yvonne Carmack, Coordinator of School Health and Lead Nurse for the Appoquinimink School District. With me is Ed Gordo and Christy Peters from Student Services, and Leah Anderson and Christy Boyd, two of our principals whose students are really going to benefit from this opportunity of the Wellness Center. So thank you to everybody that made this happen, Newcastle County Council. I can tell you from a parent perspective and a school nurse perspective, this is an amazing opportunity to expand these services to our younger students. Working at Appoquinimink High School as a school nurse, our wellness center at that school was a tremendous help and addition, collaboration with our guidance counselors, our school psychologists, and our school nurse to provide an expanded service to our students. In 1985, the first wellness center in the state of Delaware opened at Middletown High School, and they have really grown over the years, and we just opened a wellness center at Odessa High School, which I think is the last one that opened in a high school in the state. And these services we found over the years have been extremely important to our students and providing needed services to them. As a parent, I took advantage, and my children took advantage of the wellness centers over an 8-year period while they were at Middletown High School. And it really also, I am a NICU nurse of over 20 years, and we couldn't leave work. So it was a tremendous help to have that in our schools. So we know that this is a great need in our community for our families and our students to keep students in school healthy and ready to learn. So thank you to everybody that made this possible. Appoquinimink School District is so excited to get this project underway for our younger students. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce my boss and Colonial School Superintendent, Dr. Jeffrey Menser.
I don't like that introduction. My name is Jeff Menser. I'm the superintendent of Colonial, and I'm honored to be here and thank Matt Meyer and the County Council for their commitment to the students in the Colonial School District and the other surrounding districts. In Colonial, we're built off a foundation of equity that drives our 4 pillars, and one of our pillars is access and opportunity. I think it's enough said. This is about access and opportunity. We've been fortunate and blessed in Colonial to have an elementary wellness center that this room's going to look like in short order for several years now. And it's been running and operating with the support of Nemours and Life Health, and we continue to provide the support services that are described here to our community. And it's invaluable. So much so that just recently the U.S. Secretary of Education, our congressional delegation, and some of the folks in this room held an event there to hold up what's going on at Eisenberg Elementary as a model. That's what's going to happen here. I feel it. I know it. I trust it. Like, you don't have, I can't provide you any data to say, oh, it's going to work for you, but you can feel it, and it will make a difference. In fact, I got an email from someone attending a conference in D.C., and the assistant deputy secretary of the Secretary of Ed, they got a lot of them in front of there, was speaking to a huge family conference and community engagement group, and they called out Eisenberg Elementary and Colonial in this international event. It matters and it will make a difference. That's my message to you and the other schools and here at Brookside, and just stay the course, because what everyone's not saying is it's going to be really hard work. It'll be really hard work, but stay the course because it'll be worth it in the end. Thank you so much for the opportunity in Colonial, and have a great day.
Superintendent Darrell Green, great play.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to be here today to celebrate this momentous occasion in terms of expanding our elementary school-based wellness centers. Thank you, Midge. Thank you, John. County Exec, Matt, thank you, because throughout COVID, the county has really stepped up and been a blessing to us as a school district, whether that's outdoor classrooms, responding to pandemic needs, and once again, you've stepped up to support us as a community. Thank you to County Council for your efforts in approving the funding. This is our fourth, will be our fourth, school-based wellness center at our elementary level within Red Clay. We have 2 within the city of Wilmington at Shortledge Academy and 1 at Warner Elementary School. We currently just opened 1 at Balch Elementary, and we have the proud principal at Richardson Park Elementary, which will be our 4th edition, Mr. Jason Martin, here today. Imagine over 4 blooms. Imagine over 4 blooms. We have to ensure that we're meeting the basic needs of our children, our families, and our communities before we can pour anything instructionally into them. And this is an opportunity. You know, the old adage that all schools are taking on more. Well, it's time for us to lean as a schools and accept that responsibility, accept that charge. And having school-based wellness centers really gives us that opportunity to do so. As my colleague said, this is an equity issue. When we look at, you know, many of our communities, they either have food deserts, they have healthcare deserts, right? They don't have equal access to quality healthcare. So this levels the playing field to kind of remove those barriers, those systemic barriers that we know a lot of our children and families face, to kind of elevate what we do as educators. So again, Maslow before Bloom. Let's take care of that food, clothing, shelter, those basic needs before we can do anything else. And if the pandemic has highlighted anything, it's really shown that, right? When we see disproportionately all of those social determinants of health, whatever those metrics are, they've increased for children of color, communities of color, for marginalized, underrepresented communities. And so this is an equalizer. So again, thank you to the county executive, thank you to county council, thank you to our many partners, you know, Nemours Christian Care, Life Health, NAMI, you know, for everything that you do to really, again, help us realize that, again, it is Maslow before Bloom. So thank you, John. Midge, thank you so much. Midge has been a blessing throughout the pandemic, but an advocate, and it always takes folks behind the scenes to do that work. So we're very appreciative of your efforts as well. So have a wonderful day, everyone.
I don't know about you, but I've been feeling very energized. And I hope for all of you that as you leave our gathering today, you go into your responsibilities throughout the day, you can take some of this energy to spur you on to do good work, because everybody here is part of the partnership that our children richly deserve. That concludes our ceremonies today. Again, thanks to Dr. Shelton and Brookside for hosting, and for County Executive Meyer. Thank you.